Good morning, students. Today we will continue with our chapter the force and friction. Today we will learn about friction. Okay. Now what is friction? Friction is the opposing force that acts when a body moves on a surface of another body of another is called the force of friction or simply friction. That is, suppose this is a man. Okay. This is the road in which he is walking. Now he is walking in this direction. Okay. Now when he is walking, the road is applying another force in the opposite direction to the man. Okay. The man is walking in this direction, so the man is applying force in this direction. The road is applying the force to man in the opposite direction. Now this force that the road is applying to the man, this is the opposing force. This force is acting like this. This force is acting opposite to that force. This force is called friction. Okay. Now, what causes the friction? Friction occurs because no surface is perfectly smooth. Surfaces that might look smooth to the unaided eye will look rough when viewed under a microscope. The road, we can say it is smooth road. Okay. In our unaided eye, means without a microscope. But no surface at all is smooth. Maybe it looks smooth, but if you see that surface with a microscope, you will see that those smooth surfaces also have some rough portions. Okay. Now, friction is due to those rough portions. Suppose the foot of the man or the shoe of the man has this type of ridges. The road also has this type of ridges. When the foot of the man and the road comes in contact, these ridges gets attached. Okay, this produces the friction, and due to this, the man can move in the road smoothly. If the road is very slippery, you will fall. What happens when the road is very smooth? That is, there is no ridges. Only the shoe of the man has ridges. The ridges will not get attached with the road. Then it can slide. Okay, that's why the wheels of the car also have ridges. Our soles of our shoes also have ridges. Now, why we slip in a floor where there is water? Because the floor also have ridges like this. Okay. Our foot also has ridges. If it is a dry floor, then these ridges will get attached and we can walk smoothly. But if there is water in the floor, that is, the layer of water is between our foot and the floor. It will prevent the ridges to get attached and we will fall down. Okay, now there are three types of friction. What are those friction? One is static friction. Static friction, sliding friction, and rolling friction. Okay. Now what is static friction? When we can see that it is more difficult to move an object from rest than to move it when it is already in motion. It is due to the fact that when the object is at rest, the irregularities between the surface and contact are interlocked, and hence a great force is required to break the interlocking. The force required to overcome the friction at an instant an object is on the verge of moving from rest is called static friction. Static friction is generally very high. Means, suppose say a machine or a wheel is at rest on the floor. The machine has this kind of grooves. The floor also have this kind of grooves. The grooves are attached. Okay. So to move the machine, we will need a high amount of force. The force that we will apply is high. So the friction that will be acted or that will be given by the floor will be also high. Then if the machine is on movement, this is the floor, this is the machine. They have interlocking, but it is not so much because the machine is on movement. The friction will be not so high like this one. This is known as static friction. Now, sliding friction, the friction that acts between two surfaces when one sliding on the surface of another is called sliding friction or kinetic friction. Like a penguin sliding on the ice. Now it is the rolling friction, the force of friction that comes into play when an object rolls over the surface of another object is called rolling friction. Like a wheel. This is the road and this is the wheel. Wheel is rolling. The friction, this friction is known as rolling friction. Okay. Now coming to the advantages and disadvantages of the friction. Like, so first we will know about the advantages of the friction. Friction makes walking possible. Why? I have told you, when you walk, the road also gives back the opposing force, that is known as friction. For that we can balance ourselves and walk. If there is no friction, that if the road is smooth, then the interlocking will not take place between the foot and our foot and the road. So we can fall. So friction helps us in walking. Friction makes the vehicles move. That is the same thing. The cars, the wheels of the cars have grooves. The roads have grooves. The road which is not smooth. In the smooth roads, the cars will slide. So when the road is wet after raining, often the cars skid because friction is less there. Okay, I have told you because the layer of water comes in between the grooves of the wheels and the road. So if there is friction, the interlocking of the grooves of the wheel and the floor road will take place and the car can move. Brakes applied can stop a vehicle only due to friction, and friction makes writing possible. So the lead of the pencil and the pen or the copy both have rough surfaces. So when you write, the interlocking takes place and it makes you write. But if there is some oil spilt over your paper, then what happens? You cannot write. Why? The oil comes in between the grooves of the copy and your pen or pencil. Okay, now disadvantages of friction. Friction causes loss of energy in the form of heat. Okay, suppose when you are rubbing your hands like this. Okay, you can rub your hand because of friction. If your hand was so smooth, it could not rub. It will just go like this. But you can rub your hand. This is because both of your hands have rough surfaces that gets interlocked when you are rubbing. When you are rubbing the hand, heat is produced. You do and see Friction causes wear and tear. When you use a shoe for many days, the soles of the shoes gets weird. The ridges or the grooves get smooth. That is caused due to friction, because when you are walking on the road, wearing your shoes, the road is applying the opposing force. That is the friction. So after a long use, your shoes get wear and tear. The methods of increasing friction. Now there are need in some areas, there are need to increase friction, like in the machineries in a factory, in the engine of the car, to perform more efficiently. Now there are some methods by which we can increase the friction. Athletes wear shoes with spikes which get embedded in the ground. Okay, so to increase the friction, like if the athlete's shoes do not have spikes, the athlete will slip when they will run. So there is spikes in the shoes of the athletes. These are the means to increase friction. Okay, so that the athlete do not slips or slip. Threads or grooves of tires. The grooves of tires also increases the friction. Okay. Now methods of decreasing friction. Now some machineries need to work very smoothly. It do not need so much friction, like the engines of the vehicles, the ball bearings, the machineries. Okay. So there are some lubricants like oils and chemicals which can decrease friction. Lubrication decreases friction. Polishing the surfaces decreases friction. Spraying some powder, using of ball bearings. Okay. Now fluid friction, it is same. The friction that now up to now we have read is of solid things. The same when it occurs in the fluid, that is in the liquid or gas, it is known as fluid friction. The resistance to motion offered by fluid is known as fluid friction. Okay. So the magnitude of the fluid friction exerted by a fluid depends on the following 4 factors. What are those? The speed of the moving object. With how much speed the object is moving in the fluid determines the friction offered. Shape of the object, size of the object, and thickness of the object. Now methods of reducing fluid friction. What are the methods? Now you know aeroplanes, birds, they have streamlined bodies. This streamline shaped bodies reduces friction. Okay. Now the chapter is complete. Read the key terms.
Advantage, disadvantage, লিখে দেন না তার লিখতে হবে।
Okay, so we have done advantages, disadvantages, fluid friction, okay, the chapter is complete. Read the key terms. Okay. And do the checkpoints in your book. Or no, do the checkpoints in your, do it in your book only. The fill in the blanks in page 157 and the checkpoint 162 page number. Okay, thank you.